Welcome into the Rock Talk Studio, the place to find your next great rock and roll book or documentary. This is the podcast that reviews, previews, and most importantly, recommends to you the good stuff. Like today's book that features Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. We are talking grunge. I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens, and get ready to rock your reading and viewing list. And today, the spotlight falls on the book Slacker, 1991 teen spirit angst, and the generation it created by Rob Janicke. What are the most defining genres in rock and roll? You have a blend of country and rhythm and blues that came together in 1954. Carl Perkins, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, rockabilly music was born. The psychedelic rock of 1965 and 66, Pink Floyd, The Doors, and the Beatles leading the way. Got hard rock of the 60s and the 70s, punk rock in 74. There was glam, new wave, and then there was one that shook the music world more than really any genre in 30 years, and it became really the last music genre in rock and roll to impact the music landscape since, and that is grunge. So how did grunge emerge from the dark, angst-filled corners of the 90s to become the defining sound of a generation? That's what this book, Slacker, strives to look at. Author Rob Janicke's exploration of this genre is both a journey through grunge history and a deeply personal account of his own struggles with depression. But Slacker isn't just a history of grunge. It's a journey through Janicke's own troubled youth. As someone who struggled with mental illness, Janicke reflects on how the music of the 90s, especially grunge, gave him solace and a sense of connection when the world felt overwhelmingly disconnected. It's raw, real, and emotional. You can almost feel the frustration and the confusion and isolation that many teens of that era faced. And in many ways, the book feels like a diary, a very relatable one, especially if you grew up during that time. The book pulls on many facets of grunge, where it started, why it started, and what it meant, and why this genre got the name grunge. One of my favorite oddball insights was how he looked at the state of music in 1990. And that was like 1 year prior to the explosion of grunge, and who was on the charts during that time. And it was dominated by acts like MC Hammer, Wilson Phillips, and Michael Bolton. Just gives you an idea of what happened and how it just completely destroyed the landscape of music. One of the key things of Slacker is the question of why grunge resonated so deeply with the youth at the time. Why did it matter? Janicke seeks answers from music experts, mental health professionals, and even himself as he reflects on how deeply this music impacted not just his life, but the life of many others. There's a nostalgic quality to the book that pulls you in if you remember those times, but even if you didn't experience the rise of grunge firsthand, Janicke's perspective offers a window into a cultural shift that defined an era. The beauty of Slacker is how it captures the essence of youth, the power of music, and the universal struggle to make sense of the world around us. While Janicke's personal story is at the forefront, it's one that many can relate to. This book isn't just for the grunge enthusiast. It's for anyone who's ever felt misunderstood, out of place, or searching for something that speaks to them in the way only music can. The author starts the book off talking about a mixtape he received in 1989 as saving his life, another sign of the times, and another case for the power of music and how the wave of grunge was needed at that time and helped a lot of people feel more connected as the world grew more disconnected. If you didn't grow up during these times, this book gives you an idea about what the culture was like and what the world was going through and how grunge music kicked the door down and entered the headspace of music listeners hungry for a new sound. The book walks you through 1984 to 1999, so there's a fairly large landscape covered. With 224 pages to tell the story, the book moves at a decent pace. And in no way is it just an overload of facts. It's kind of an everyman story for kids of the 90s. It's nostalgic in its delivery and very relatable on a basic level. And if you did experience these times, turning on your TV and seeing Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit explode into your living room, this book is a nostalgic trip through the feelings of many and the music that changed everything. Slacker, 1991 Teen Spirit Angst and the Generation It Created by Rob Janicke is 224 pages. If you listened to the show before, you know that after talking about the book or documentary, I like to explore a question. I call it the one big question. And today, this one's a little bit more personal for me. And that was, who was the first grunge band? That answer is coming up after the break. Before we get into the one big question and talk a little grunge history, I want to tell you a little story about the monthly newsletter that I put out called the Rock Talk Studio Blast. The Blast features, among other things, the top 5 books and docs for the year. And before it became kind of the staple of this newsletter, the top 5 list of rock and roll books and docs were just kind of my personal running compilation that I kept to myself. But then the podcast started taking off and I started talking to a lot more people about it. And I started to get asked the question, what are your top 5 books and docs? So I started looking at ways I can share my list of the top 5s. And that one question became kind of the spark that ignited the whole newsletter thing. So now I can put out a monthly list that you can follow throughout the year that changes as new books and docs come out. It's a running competition that also serves as a reference for when you're looking for something new to check out. So if you would like to get the newsletter, the Blast, sent to your inbox every month, and it comes out on the last Friday of the month, just shoot me an email at info@rocktalkstudio.com and say Big Rick. Send on over the Blasts, and you will get the newsletter that keeps you on top of the world of rock and roll books and docs, and also features the current top 5 of 2025. Who was the first grunge band? Who started it all, or who could it be attributed to? This book, Slacker, dedicates more than a few pages to this, and I'm glad it did because I didn't know a lot about this band, and I didn't really know a lot about the beginnings of grunge. I was right there in the thick of it in Hollywood when grunge hit, and I saw a lot of the bands when they first started coming up, Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. All those great bands were right there at that time. But who was the first grunge band? The first grunge band is often considered to be Green River. Formed in 1984 in Seattle, Green River was one of the earliest bands to take punk and rock and heavy metal, some of the core characteristics of the grunge sound, and mix them all together to formulate that early sound. Their music featured raw, gritty guitar riffs and a mix of heavy and melodic elements, laying the groundwork for what would later become grunge. It's interesting to look at the members of Green River. Jeff Ament is on bass, Mark Arm is on guitar and vocals, Bruce Fairweather also played guitar, and so did Stone Gossard, and drumming was Alex Shumway. So you got a couple of members of Pearl Jam there in the early moments of grunge. Other early influential bands in Seattle, of course, was Mudhoney. You had Soundgarden that came out a little bit, like 84. And they all helped shape the genre as it grew in popularity, especially in the early 90s. But Green River is often credited as a starting point of grunge, as a distinct style that took over the world. And this book, Slacker, gives you a good dose of what it felt like when that music first came about. Today's episode is sponsored by Thames and Hudson Publishing, who are going to send one lucky winner a copy of the new book called Buzz Me In, Inside the Record Plant Studio. I just finished reading it. A really interesting look at the heyday of the recording studio. The book covers around 10 years from the 70s to the 80s and the two men who decided to kind of take it to the next level, audio engineer Gary Kellgren and businessman Chris Stone, who were inspired early on from Jimi Hendrix and Frank Zappa, and they decided to roll the dice, build a recording studio in New York City, and this book takes you on a wild, uninhibited, crazy ride through what it took to create, build, run, produce, and make rock and roll history. To get in on the drawing for the book sponsored by Thames and Hudson, there are 2 things you need to do. One is you need to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, the Rock Talk Studio Blast. The cool thing about that, the subscriptions are totally free and it comes out once a month. So all you have to do is send me an email, tell me, Big Rick, sign me up for the blast and I'll hook you up. And the other thing is you have to be a U.S. citizen to win. They can only ship to names in the U.S. right now. Great new book. You're going to be hearing more about it soon. I'm going to be doing a feature as it's a spotlight title coming up. Buzz me in inside the Record Plant studio. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love talking rock and roll. Next week, I'm going to be talking the best of rock and roll books. It's the top 5 rock and roll books of 2025 so far. Tune in to get the good stuff. All right, let's tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. I'll see you next time with the top 5 rock and roll books of 2025 in the Rock Talk studio.